iPhone 17 Pro versus iPhone Air. Which one to buy? That is the aim of today's video. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and I picked up the iPhone 17 Pro in this silver color, and I picked up the official iPhone Air here, and this does come in this sky blue color here. You can also get this in space black. You can get this in a light gold looking color as well as a silver color as well. Now we do have the iPhone 17 Pro coming in a deep sea blue. It kind of looks like a navy blue and a cosmic orange. The price point though on this one starts at $10.99. Over here starts at $9.99, which is a pretty steep prices. They are kind of like up $100 over their predecessors. They went to 256 gigs for the 17 Pro. They started at $9.99 on the 16 Pro, but it gave you 128 gigs. So it seemingly is around the same price, but they dropped the cheapest option. So either way you look at it, you are paying more this year for an iPhone. Also, because the iPhone Air does replace the iPhone 16 Plus in the lineup, where the Apple iPhone 16 Plus would have been placed in the lineup. That phone came in at $8.99 to start, so this one is $9.99 to start, so it is up as well. So overall prices and colors, that's what you got to know about each. Now, when we talk about the key specifications of each, the iPhone 17 Pro comes with a triple 48 megapixel fusion camera setup, LiDAR sensor there, adaptive True Tone flash, and then we do have the aluminum chassis as well as a 6.3 inch display on the front. This is of the ProMotion variety. It is an LTPO panel and it gets up to 3000 nits of brightness. Now this phone also does come with that 18 megapixel center stage camera on the front, and it also has nearly a 4000 milliamp hour battery. So because of that reason, no SIM card slot on this US model. It does have a slightly larger battery, which does increase its weight just a little bit. Camera control is housed on the right, power button on the right, as well as action buttons, and we do have volume rockers here. Overall, it's an iteration over the 16 Pro, giving you some better thermals, better camera system overall, with the same size screen with a little bit more weight for the trade-off of extra battery life. So the iPhone 17 Pro does have quite a good value on offer there. It's okay to me that they drop the 128 gig. I just don't like how either way you look at it, you got to pay a little bit more this year, but what do you know? That is the Apple tax. Now over here for the right on the iPhone Air, key specs that matter: 6.5 inch Super Retina XDR display. This is 120 hertz as well, so that is an upgrade if you were skipping out on the Plus last year. Now you get this one. You do lose that dual camera though. This is a single camera. It's a fusion camera. It's a really good sensor. It does zoom 2x, cropping in on that main sensor. And there is no ultra wide on here though. Most of the internals are housed up here on the iPhone Air, just so you know. It does have one single speaker up here. We'll talk about that later. Down here is just microphones for talking on the phone. And then this phone also comes with the Apple A19 chipset, Pro chipset, and this one does come with the A19 Pro as well. They both do have 12 gigabytes of RAM, so keep that in mind. However, the thermal system is going to be a bit better for the iPhone Air. Do keep that in mind. Or excuse me, for the iPhone 17 Pro, because this phone is much thinner. Do keep that in mind. So over here, we do have the camera control, power button right there. It is a shinier edges on this phone, but ultra thin. We do have ourselves the action button and volume rockers. It is really a marvel of engineering. The buttons were barely able to be fit on this phone. You'll see right here, USB-C. And this phone also does come with the same 18 megapixel center stage camera on the front. So basically the specs are kind of similar except for the cameras and the battery. The battery is about 3200 milliamp. I'm just estimating it's like 31 something, but it's pretty smaller compared to the one in the iPhone 17 Pro. But the actual runtime is about an hour difference. We'll talk more about battery life later in this video, but those are the key specifications you need to know about each of them. That should help you kind of understand what you're getting into here. Now, from a design perspective, which one to buy? Well, the iPhone 17 Pro does have definitely a different look. Aluminum enclosure with a glass back right here in this area. Now, there have been saying that there's scratches happening on the cosmic orange and the darker blue color. It is an anodized aluminum, so when you do scratch it, the natural color comes through. However, I think on the silver, you should be okay. So that's one of the reasons why I went with the silver. For what I use as my main phone, usually is a smaller iPhone. Right now, I am testing the 17 Pro Max as well. But this one right here is probably the color choice to go with if you're worried about that. Other than that, though, the actual design, the camera plateau is not going to be everybody's favorite look here. It is definitely a different, bold look. I kind of don't mind it just because you still have the same triple camera array. The dual tone thing, 2 different tones here, for some is going to be a good look. For others, they might not like it. Bringing that Apple logo down does make some cases look a little bit strange on the phone. For example, if you have a MagSafe case like this one right here, you'll see the Apple logo is no longer in the center. So that just looks a little bit strange. If you get Apple's tech woven case though, they do kind of like have the Apple logo back in the middle, like you'll see right here on an iPhone 17 Pro Max. But the phone also feels just a little bit weightier, a little bit thicker. It does feel like a slightly like a little brick in your pocket here, but a lot of people are used to that feel. They're used to that little hefty iPhone Pro feel, and I don't think it's going to bother a lot of you. So overall, in terms of design, if you like the one that stands out as the best of the best, I still feel like the Pro holds that title as the most high-end iPhone of the year. And when I was at the Apple Store, I did notice a lot of people were hanging around the iPhone Pro section more than the Air section. Although there was quite a bit of fanfare for the Air, not as much as the iPhone 17 Pro here. You'll see this one does have a speaker array and microphones, as well as faster charging than prior edition. From the front, though, still that same 6.3. I think they did a great job with the bezel reduction last year, so we're pretty good here to go still as well. Only difference is we don't have any change in dynamic island, so that didn't get smaller. So I'm still looking forward to some reductions in that, or maybe an undersplayed camera in the future. Now, looking at the design of the iPhone Air, you should pick this one if you really, really like a phone that feels like a feather in your pocket. This thing, it feels like one of those older lighter phones where you would do phantom ghost checks in your pocket. You know what I'm talking about? Like you forget your phones in your pocket. This one kind of has that feel in terms of the weight. However, it's not quite like that always because of its height. So keep in mind the iPhone Air is definitely a pretty tall phone still because it has a 6.5. So you can see over there it's towering over the iPhone Pro over there, and it does feel like just a little bit wider, but it still has this super thin light factor that if you always wanted a large phone, you were dreaming about, I love these large phones, but they're just too heavy. They're like bricks in my pocket. This is going to be the phone for you. It also kind of reminds me of the older, shinier sides of the iPhone. I did want to leave my smudges on there just so like this can come through on video, but it is a smudge fest on the sides there. But Apple did launch the bumper case, so you might never see these if you are rocking the bumper case, which will allow the phone to stay grippy and also not get these smudges all over everything. Some people have said to me that the back of this looks like kind of like a Pixel phone, but I don't know that I agree with that. It does kind of have that similarities, but it still looks a little bit different. Pixels is more a whole camera housing. It's a little bit lower. You'll see right here, single tone flash, so you can't do those extra flash things where you could like spread it out in the software. The single camera, I think it's a really clean look though. The Apple logo right in the middle. I wish this did have 2 cameras though, like one here. That would have been better, having that ultra wide on here. I guess they couldn't fit it in there for this design, but I think this is a great first attempt. The look on the front kind of give you that iPhone 11 Pro Max back in the day size, but with thinner bezels. It's giving you that 10s Max size. So I really like 6.5. It feels like an easy to manage size, but without being too big. So I think a lot of people are going to like that. On the whole, from a design perspective, if you like something that feels like a feather in your pocket, it's ultra thin, you're going to really love this. And you like a phone that feels like Apple is daring to do something different. This feels different, and I like that. I like that we're finally seeing something that they dared to try something different. This feels like the risk-taking phone of the year. This one feels like the safe choice that they had to keep bringing out just to make sure the sales keep rolling in. You get what I'm saying? So that's how I would choose. You want the best of the best. You're okay with the thicker design, but you still like your lightweight, powerful beast. Get yourself the 17 Pro. From a design perspective, if you're looking for marvel of engineering, super featherweight, lightweight, you want it easier to hold, you like a clean, minimal look, get yourself the iPhone 17 Air. You're going to be the 17 Air, the iPhone Air, you're going to be fine. So we're only going to talk shortly about build quality. The build quality is going to be great on both. They do feel very sturdy. You're not bending these phones. You're not cracking these phones. These things are strong. Yes, you might get a little bit of scratching according to some of the reports on the 17 Pro, but I'm not seeing it on mine, especially on the silver one here. Definitely, they just feel very strong and durable as usual. This phone also doesn't bend very easily. The iPhone Air does not bend easily. So this phone is going to be very sturdy. Don't be concerned about the thinness. This is not the iPhone 6 Plus. It's not the iPhone 6. This one is much more reinforced. It's a sturdy design, even though it is thin. So you're going to be fine with this one as well from a durability perspective. Both of them do have very good overall glass strength on the front and the rear, so they don't crack super easily either. This one going with the titanium frame definitely allowed it to become much lighter though. So build quality wise, I wouldn't be worried about either if I was you. So which one to pick in terms of display? Well, to me, this is an easy one. You want the bigger display, you pick the iPhone Air on the right. If you want yourself the smaller, more compact display, but you still want a bright panel and you still want a sharp panel, you pick the iPhone 17 Pro. They both basically have the same exact screen. One is just bigger and one is slightly smaller. I do think for those of you who do like to consume media though, and you want to do this on the fly, on the run, and you're out a lot, you're doing a lot of things out in the go, you're not at home much, but you need a bigger screen, the Air is a really nice jump. It does feel more like closer to a bigger phone, but doesn't feel like a bigger phone in the weight. So that's how I would pick. It's just really down to the size right there. You do have the same features on both: True Tone, Night Shift, Dark Mode, the ability to customize, same brightness outdoors, 3000 nits. Both of them are very easy to see outdoors. But again, it's the same old story. Like if you're going to be doing a lot of media consumption, you're going to want the phone that has the larger screen. So video watching probably more enjoyable on the iPhone Air, and then the 17 Pro seems more of the smaller, more daily communicating phone where you're just going to be texting a lot, taking a lot of photos, videos, your daily beast, if you will. So that's how I would describe them. That's how I would really choose in terms of display. What's neat about the Air though is that it feels like you're almost holding nothing but a display in your hand, and a big one, have you. So it does feel kind of special. I'm being honest with you. The Air is feeling a little bit more special to me than the iPhone 17 Pro, which feels to me a lot like the Pros before, with just a little bit different materials and look on the back. So I've been more leaning towards the Air when it comes to that display experience. It's been, to me, quite joyous to see the 6.5 make its return. I used to love the 6.5 on the 10s Max and the 11 Pro Max until they went to 6.7 on the 12 Pro Max, which was nice, but then they got really big with the newer 6.9 displays. Now, when it comes to software, we are looking at iOS 26 on both phones, which does bring some really nice clear tinting. You can also do that, and then it does bring the liquid glass user interface, so definitely it's not everybody's cup of tea. I will say some of the animations look a little bit buggy to start here. There is an update out of the box if you do get some of these early batch shipments of the iPhone 17 series, so do keep that in mind. However, if you're watching this video 6 months down the line or months down the line, the new batch of shipment should have some of the newer updates. But if you're watching this early, like right now, or currently in this iPhone first couple weeks or whatever, first month or so, you're gonna have an update out of the box. I think it feels to me like iOS just feels more polished. Okay, here's how I want to describe this. On the Air, because the Air is kind of like smooth and like it's very light and it feels all glass kind of on the back with this matte texture, I feel like iOS just feels like smoother. It's not necessarily the software. I feel like the hardware just matches the liquid glass polished feel because it's polished on the edges. So it kind of just feels like it flows really nicely with the iPhone Air. Let's go over here, and you could see you could tint that and stuff like that. So neither is different. It is the same software, but the hardware with the shiny edges and the bouncing effect and the sky blue, it just looks really good. iOS 26 looks really good on this phone right here. In addition, you can see that if you pull down notifications, you'll see like that glass effect going through right there. So that's definitely a little bit different. And then of course, if you go on the lock screen, you get that large clock. You can also go over here and see UI elements will change right there. And there's so much more. I talked about it in my iOS 26 review. But generally, in terms of software, I would just pick the iPhone Air if you want to experience it on a bigger screen. If you want to experience on a little bit more compacted down, pick it on the iPhone 17 Pro. Both of them should have the same software longevity. They are using the same chipset, although this one just will be able to throttle less because it has better thermals than the Air. So when it comes to performance, we're going to do a proper speed test between these, but I feel like they're going to perform exactly about the same. They have the same clock speed on the chipset and the same RAM, so they shouldn't have no major differences whatsoever in the performance. The battery performance will be different, but generally they should be performing the same until the iPhone Air starts to get a bit warm. Then the 17 Pro will start to show why you get a Pro phone, because it should be able to hold that consistent, sustained performance a little bit longer than what we find on the Air. But it's going to be, you're going to really have to push the Air to get it to that point. So either way you go, performance is strong, whether you go with the Air or you go with the iPhone 17 Pro. The real thing though is that the iPhones have been really strong in performance for a long time. So I find that the only area where you're really going to push these phones to their limits is if you're playing games. Or if you are recording in 4K heavy, stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the cameras. First of all, this is a very easy section to help you decide. If camera is very important to you, just buy the 17 Pro. Don't even entertain the Air. We have 8x optical, 4x right there, and you could zoom 40 times on this iPhone. That is much further than you could before, 25x before. Also, you can do 4K 120 frames a second on this phone as well, and you could do RAW modes and things of that sort. Also, because it gives you that same center stage camera on the front, you can use these wide angle videos and photos, and to me, having that across the line is nice. But where the iPhone 17 Pro should get your attention is with the Pro RAW res controls and stuff of that sort. If you do want to set up your camera on a tripod, you want to start taking some professional stuff, the iPhone 17 Pro is the only option here to go with. If you scroll down here, you'll see macro controls, a lot of nice controls, but where it really shines here is in the formats. It also does have something this phone doesn't have, which is spatial video and photo. So you have the Apple Pro RAW Res right there, and you could see Pro RAW Resolution Control, and we do have Pro RAW formats. So yeah, that is that's going to be the really deciding factor. Now, this one is interesting over here because if we do go into camera settings, you're going to find yourself much less camera options. You'll find yourself still a lot of 4K stuff, no problems there. We'll go over here. You can do spatial audio, but when we go down here, you have less lenses. You know, there is enough though, lens corrections, no Pro RAW Res, nothing like that. Just resolution control. Camera control button is on both of them, so that's not a big issue either. They're pretty easy to press and use. I was testing out to see if I could make this my only phone, and honestly, I probably could. 10 times zoom is pretty good, and also because this one is trying to do the most it can with a single camera, even some of the zoom shots when they process do look good, even though they're not optical. So I do think majority of consumers who are just using the phone for daily pictures, they're going to have a great experience still on the Air. But if you're used to anything with an ultra wide angle, a long zoom lens, you're coming from something like that, this is going to feel like some sacrifice on this phone as well. You also won't find yourself the spatial options on here either, so that could be a letdown. But you can see you do have that camera control, which still gives that iPhone Air a nice feel. If we go ahead and launch this one here, you'll see you'll find the spatial option right here for this phone. If you're going to be viewing stuff in the Vision Pro, that will be more important, but still just having every extra option pushes the 17 Pro leaps ahead of the Air when it comes to camera. So think about that when you're thinking about which phone to buy. You're either buying super thin, lightweight with a sacrifice in camera, or you're sacrificing some thickness and weight with better battery and a super improved camera, like multiple different options versus this one. This is a tool camera. This is a daily consumer camera on the right. And when it comes to the battery life, there's also no contest here. The iPhone 17 Pro has almost 1,000 more milliamp. It's something like 800 or so. It's near 1,000. So this phone has a substantially thicker battery on board. So you can expect yourself about an hour and a half more battery life on the iPhone 17 Pro. You can also use MagSafe options on both of them, but the iPhone Air here is definitely going to be the phone to get if you're okay with using a MagSafe option, but you want, again, that lightweight. I feel like people who are close to a charger, you work from home, you have CarPlay running, which also can charge. I mean, wired CarPlay charges your phone while you're driving quite a bit. You have accessories at the office. You bring your charger to work. And don't get it twisted. Don't let me make you think that, oh, well, I'm going to have to do all that stuff again because the phone doesn't last. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this phone will need a charge for heavier users if you're really pushing it. I don't find the Air to be the best option for a super heavy user. Go with the Pro if you're a heavy user. I feel like the Air is good for everyday people who don't use their phone constantly, heavily, but they use it a good amount, but they're not on it all day. Like, they're using it as a tool to get through their day. And I think it lasts fine for people like that. Just everyday errands, music listening, your commute, going to work, putting it in your pocket, doing your job, pulling it out here and there, using some GPS while it's wired to your car. You're going to be fine with this phone. For those of you who need that extra distance, heavy camera stuff, day-to-day, on your phone like a beast, you're going to want the Pro or Pro Max. There's just no other option here. And another area where the Pro is going to be my number one pick here is going to be the audio. We have speakers on the bottom and up at the top behind that dynamic island, or above that dynamic island. This one sounds significantly better than the Air, which houses only the speakers on the top. This is a big letdown to me. It doesn't sound great. It sounds really weird too, because most phones now have speakers on the bottom. So that, to me, I didn't even know that when I first picked this up. I forgot that was even a con of this phone, but they get loud enough and they don't sound tinny, but they just sound weird coming out of one side. I'm just so used to stereo speakers on almost every phone that launches now, especially in these price ranges, that just feels like a weird omission on Apple's part. So I don't like the single speaker. It's not fun. Not fun to listen to audio out of that compared to Pro or Pro Max. It just sounds so much better. But they're probably banking on the fact that people are going to be having AirPods on with these, lightweight on their commutes and daily usage, and just rocking around with a lightweight phone with a lightweight AirPods, and you probably don't even care about the speaker anymore. But if you do place that phone on the table, listen to audio, get that iPhone 17 Pro. There's no other question about it. From an actual phone and connectivity standpoint, I'm pretty happy with this. These have been doing so good with network performance, reliability, and stuff of that sort. So if you do find yourself concerned about this, don't be either way. I think the 17 Pro is going to do a bit better in sound because it has more speakers overall for audio and things of that sort. But from a pure reception standpoint, they're both doing very strong, and they have fast Wi-Fi, fast charging on both of them. So there's not really a substantial issue in those type of areas. Both of them do have emergency SOS, which is pretty standard on iPhones these days. So I just wanted to, before we give our final verdict, talk about some of the cons if you go with a Pro. One of the cons is that this phone just feels kind of hefty when you're holding it, even though it's like lightweight, not lightweight, size. Like the size is kind of like not huge. It just feels a little bit hefty to hold after extended periods. Just because of the thickness of the battery pack. Also, it just feels like a little bit of a thick boy because you can feel the thickness of the battery that they added in here. It just feels a little thicker to me than the iPhone 17 and even, well, obviously the Air, but even like the 16 Pro. So there's just a level of thickness that once you feel the iPhone Air, there's no going back. Also, I think the design could be a con to some who don't like this look. That could be a con to some people. But the cons to the Air, I think, are a little bit more. There's a lot of camera sacrifices. There's audio sacrifices. For some, it might be too big. My wife actually said, why didn't they make the Air in a smaller size? That would have been amazing. I think that does make sense. Also, I think it would have been easy to see a 17 Plus now that they have the ProMotion displays on the regular 17, but that's a different topic for another day. But yeah, seeing a smaller version of the Air would have been nice. So for some people, this might still be too tall, too wide, even though it's super light and thin. Also, the battery is a con for a lot of people, but mostly I think it's the camera and the battery. Somebody actually asked me, hey, is that the iPhone Air yesterday in the store? And I said, are you going to get one? And they said, no, I'm going to wait till it's more pro. So that should tell you what you need to know. Some people are already thinking, yeah, I like the Air. It looks amazing, but give me my pro features on the Air as well. So Apple needs to take that into account for the future. Let's see if we can get more features into the body of the Air to make it more of a, desirable option. Although it does seem already pretty desirable, if I'm being honest. So my final verdict is, if I'm being objective, the 17 Pro is the better phone, period. Like if we're looking at the spec sheet, it's the better phone. Even though it's slightly smaller, it just does everything better for the most part. Better cameras, better battery life, and it is an easier to reach one-hand daily phone because of the 6.3-inch display and its size. So overall, to me as a phone, just a daily phone, I think it's a better option. If you are into, you've been tired of heavy phones, you just want something that feels like you're not even holding it. You want something that feels different from Apple. You're tired of the same old stuff every year. This is a special phone this year, and I'm glad they did this because it definitely does feel different. I do think it would have been great to see the Plus make its return with a ProMotion display. It needed that badly. But for those of you who want a thin and light phone, it's finally here with the Air. So whatever options and things I discussed in this video you find yourself resonating, that would be the phone for you. If you find yourself heavily leaning towards the things I was discussing about the Pro, go with the Pro. If you find yourself not caring about the stuff I said with the Pro, the Air will be fine for you. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know all your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns down below in the comment section. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.